Hi ladies and gentlemen, Christoph the Polish Geek is back from my vacation in Italy. So yes, because for a week and a half I was in Italy. I think I did say it. I did make a nature adventure video in Assisi and then a video short in Venice. So yeah, I've been to Italy and it was a really excellent trip. Starting with Florence, then a Tuscan village, Gentiano Terme, and then Assisi, and finally concluded my trip in Venice, and it was a really excellent trip, and the food was just delicious, which I could have some more of it. But I'm also glad to be back, and the first video I wanted to make is address the tragic murder of an innocent Ukrainian girl, Iryna Zarutska, as well as the tragic and brutal assassination of Charlie Kirk, because this is just getting out of hand. But I will also give a shout out and a eulogy to all the innocent kids in Catholic school at the shooting in Minneapolis, as well as the innocent kids in the school shooting of Colorado High School. Like RIP to all of those people. But the specific thing I want to talk about though are the tragic murders of Iryna Zarutska and Charlie Kirk, because the fact that so many people are celebrating Charlie Kirk's death is just unacceptable. That's pure evil. We'll get that later though. First, let's talk about Iryna Zarutska, because an innocent girl from Ukraine, a refugee who came with her family to the United States, and she was returning from her pizza job, and she was murdered by an evil psychopath. And worst of all, that people in the train absolutely did nothing to stop that. Like that poor girl, it's clear how afraid she is when this monster just stabs her, and the worst thing is that the people in the train are literally doing nothing about it. So yes, I almost view the people in the train almost as evil as the psychopath that kills her, and I wish they could also all go to jail, because just basically seeing that an innocent girl gets stabbed while you are doing nothing about it, what the hell? And I wish I could be there actually, because if I was there I would just jump in and save her straight away. I don't know, maybe that psychopath would have me stabbed, but I wouldn't just let the innocent girl be murdered by a psychopath. And maybe I would get in a fight with him and I would just tell her to run out of the train again. Maybe I would end up getting injured, but I don't care. When you have an opportunity to do the right thing, you just do the right thing. You don't let an innocent girl get stabbed. But I have all the condolences to the innocent girl, to her family. She was a pretty beautiful girl when you look at the pictures. R.I.P. Iryna Zarutska. You truly didn't deserve what happened to you, but I'm hoping that that monster that killed her will finally get long years in jail, like possibly life imprisonment. He deserves it. Some would argue the death penalty, but maybe you can argue that death isn't actually good for him. So it's too good for him, I mean. So maybe life imprisonment is actually more fitting punishment. But whatever, he needs to be removed from the street and permanently removed from society. Like whatever punishment the courts see fit, but he deserves every bit of the most severe punishment that he could possibly get. And now let's move on to Charlie Kirk, who actually did a short video about Iryna Zarutska, say her name, only to himself tragically get shot a few days later by someone who just can't handle the fact that people can have different political opinions. Now let's move on to talk about the death of Charlie Kirk. And this is gonna be much more controversial, but I just gotta address it. And the thing is, he actually made a video about Iryna Zarutska and even said say her name, but now, not knowing that a few days later people are gonna be saying his name, but I say both their names, because both are just human beings, just lost their lives to psychopaths. And what I find unacceptable is how so many people are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. Like, what the hell? This is pure evil. Like, you don't have to agree with someone's politics, but to just celebrate their death, like. So yes, I root for everybody who celebrates the death of Charlie Kirk to lose their job. Literally, I really do. And if you've been watching my channel and you celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk or are happy about it, then I'm telling you now, unsubscribe. I don't want anything to do with you. If you think that it's okay to celebrate the death of another human being just because you politically disagree with them, then unsubscribe from me right now. Especially that Charlie Kirk wasn't even far right as people present him. He was actually as moderate as you can get, and in many ways could say he basically felt like a 2008 Obama instead of a for a neo-Nazi that they tried to portray, that the media tried to portray him as. And what he was doing, he was just going around campuses, encouraging peaceful, respectful debate and basically challenging students of different views. Because whether people liked it or not, the truth is, like, I went to college in the United States and I can vouch for the fact that the truth is, colleges and campuses do in fact indoctrinate students with politics. It's like, there's just no denying that. Like, whether you want to admit it or not, the truth is, campuses don't really offer free thinking. That's just the truth. And I experienced it firsthand in my college in Vermont when I went. So what Charlie Kirk was doing was basically going around college campuses, debating, challenging students and challenging their beliefs. And he was a pretty good debater. Again, you don't have to agree with him, but you can't deny that he was a pretty good and respectful debater. And if you disagree with him, then debate. Try to challenge him. But don't wish death upon him like, geez. And I will actually say also this, like, I've seen one of the conservatives even saying that maybe because there is no liberal version of Charlie Kirk, because the left's ideas are not so good, but this is something I also have to disagree, because the truth is, the reason there is no liberal version of Charlie Kirk is because, again, the colleges and campuses basically indoctrinate students, so it's not like there is a need for a liberal version of him, because basically whole colleges are that. And what Charlie Kirk tried to do is basically come to college campuses and challenge students and offer them a different point of view. Again, not necessarily saying you have to agree with that point of view, but it's always good to open yourself up to different perspectives and talk. Have open-minded conversations. Like I also see a bunch of leftists bringing up a video of British Oxford student Tilly Middlehurst and Charlie Kirk debating with her, and how she wrecked him and destroyed him in the debate, which is actually true. She did destroy him in a debate, but that doesn't make Charlie Kirk a bad person or prove anything. All it proves is that he found a better debater, which is exactly what should be done. When you go around and debate various people, sooner or later you might find someone who's a much better debater than you, and that's what happened with Charlie Kirk. It turned out that Tilly Middlehurst was an even better debater, but what they failed to address is that Tilly Middlehurst very much broke into tears about Charlie Kirk's death. She straight up condemned his death and was even in tears in her video about it. So God bless Tilly Middlehurst, even though plenty of her followers apparently did started harassing her for that, but again, God bless Tilly Middlehurst. And I really wish a lot more people were like that, because we need to just condemn political violence on any spectrum. Because thing is, at this point, that's not liberal versus conservative, that's not left versus right, that's just good versus evil at this point. And there are good and evil people on both sides of the political spectrum. But the unfortunate thing is, in these days, people have become, especially in the United States actually, people have become so tribal in their politics that they just don't want to admit that, sadly. And there are plenty of people who are even actually leaving the left now, again, because of what happened to Charlie Kirk, and I perfectly understand that, but at the same time, many of them are now joining right, which just shows again how tribal people have become, because you don't have to join one side just because you left the previous one. Actually look at their values. Again, they're not saying it's bad to join the right, but actually listen and make sure, are these really your values? Like, join a spectrum based on your values, not based on actions of some people in your political spectrum. But that unfortunately shows how tribal people on both sides has become, even though the truth is there are really evil, toxic people on both political sides. Like, of course, liberals keep calling themselves like, we are the good guys, we are the compassionate ones, even despite so much evidence to the contrary. Like, I'll actually give you an example of one of the most toxic YouTubers, if not the most toxic, is this feminist icon Rebecca Watson. Like, she's like one of the most toxic people online, and even reading the title of her videos is just cringe. Or just look at the child-free community on Reddit. Yes, probably might actually be the most toxic community on the whole thread. Actually more toxic than any political community, but to suggest that liberals aren't toxic, that just, if you think they aren't, then you're living under a rock. And I just gave perfect examples of far leftists who are just as toxic as you can get. And what I already said about Charlie Kirk before is that despite the media presenting him as this far-right activist, he was actually as moderate as you could get, as I said, and I thought he was actually making a quite interesting points, and I did occasionally watch him, not much, because as I've been saying in this channel constantly, politics in general has been making me depressed, so it's just a healthy thing for me just to completely avoid politics at all costs, because it's just a toxic subject. And after I finish this video, I'm very much gonna go back to my tradition of just completely, and I mean completely, avoiding politics, because politics just makes me depressed. And examples like that are perfect examples, but I'm bringing this up anyway because I just have had to get this out of my head. But as I said, Charlie Kirk was as moderate as they can. I'll give you an example of an actual right-wing extremist who I do think should very much be condemned. And back in 2018, he was actually fired from town hall, so that's good, he deserved it. But even if he himself clearly doesn't think of himself as toxic, but there is this guy, he's not particularly well known anyway, but his name is John Hawkins, and he also very much rightfully condemned people who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. And I actually agree with him when he said, because he did say that he roots for everyone who celebrates the death of Charlie Kirk to just lose their job, and I actually agree with him, except that he's a gigantic hypocrite, because back in 2010, this guy straight up advocated for the killing of Julian Assange. Like that's one of the biggest hypocrisies I ever seen online, like complaining about people celebrating death of one person, which I agree with him. As I said, people who celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk are just pure evil, and not just Charlie Kirk in general. He claims to condemn people who celebrate the death of another person, but come on man, you yourself just very much called for the death of someone else whom you don't like, so that's the biggest hypocrisy of the worst sort. And if you look at some of his other Twitter comments, as well as a column he writes for Culture Sidle, which he has on Substack actually, you can see this guy is one of the most toxic people online ever. Probably the most toxic right-winger I've encountered, and I still don't wish either death upon him or that far leftist Rebecca Watson, but I do wish, certainly for one thing, I do wish people on their political spectrums very much disown and completely dissociate themselves from them, because those people don't deserve any recognition, and they are very much a disgrace to both their sides. Unfortunately, the truth is that in this day and age, people have become so, and I mean so tribal, that unfortunately even toxic people are very much welcome into the political circles. In the leftist case, actually, it seems worse. In the leftist case, it seems like the toxic psychopaths are basically completely taking over, and the more rational liberals, who really should be the leading people in the movement, are basically non-visible, like how I just said. Like, as I said already, Tilly Middlehurst straight up broke into tears about Charlie Kirk's death, and I really wish more people on her political spectrum were very much like that. And another thing, now I'll share with you a personal anecdote about people celebrating Charlie Kirk, because I went to a very, and I mean very, liberal college in Vermont when I lived in the United States, and several people from there that I knew personally are very much celebrating his death. Like, just look at this comment. Like, I wasn't actually friends with that guy, we were acquaintances, and we did get along ultimately, but we never were close friends or anything. But yep, that's the comment that he straight up made, and I just couldn't resist but just had to comment on that, and said that you don't have to agree with him politically, but calling somebody a fascist just because you disagree with them is just wrong. And then I followed it saying that, and in my eyes, if you celebrate the death of a young father, then you're a scum in my eyes. Because, as I said, celebrating the death of a person you disagree with is just pure evil in my eyes. So of course he started arguing with me, and then basically saying Trump is a fascist, a dictator. So, you know what I did? I countered his point and saying how it talked about Biden's assault on medical freedom as well as freedom of speech. And you know what he did? He blocked me. You know, he straight up blocked me on Facebook, but I'll take it as a badge of honor. I don't need people like that in my life. But ultimately, it's not liberal versus conservative. It just, at this point, it's a battle of good versus evil. And we just need good people on both political sides to start condemning evil people on their respective sides. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem we're anywhere close to that. If anything, people, as I said, I've been seeing this video, are more tribal than ever now, sadly, but I really wish that people started doing that, just calling out evil people on both political spectrums. I really wish that, so I will pray for that, as well as Charlie Kirk and Iryna Zarutska. That's all I'm wishing for, that people finally start just condemning the evil on both political sides of the spectrum. Of course, one side is gonna say, "Oh, liberals are evil," then liberals are gonna scream, "Conservatives are evil." There's no way to get along. If people keep on with that thinking, and again, unfortunately, it seems like it's gonna be the case, then unfortunately political violence and evil is only gonna keep increasing, because what people fail to realize is that for evil to triumph...
It wasn't. But remember, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing.
And yes, that's the unfortunate truth. People are too busy fighting over their political differences instead of coming together against violence, as well as against pure evil happening on both political sides of the spectrum. And not just political sides of the spectrum, evil all over the world, because like I generally don't share my politics on this channel and will keep on doing that, but all I will say is this: I just don't trust any people in power anywhere. Like, I just think that it's foolish to trust governments, anybody in government, because like, people call me conspiracy theorist, but in my opinion, it's much more rational to believe in conspiracy theories than to just believe that anybody, and emphasis on word anybody, in power or government has your best interests at heart. That's just my belief. And I'll also point out this one more thing, and that's from my tutor, from my boarding school in Rhode Island, and she's actually one of the most liberal people I ever met, but God bless her for this amazing post on Facebook. That's what she said. And I really wish more people operated on that type of thing. But ultimately, again, RIP Charlie Kirk and RIP Iryna Zarutska. Neither of you has deserved what happened to you, and I hope you both are now having a party in heaven, because both of you were taken way too soon and certainly haven't deserved what happened to you. And again, the people who did nothing on the train to save Iryna are pure evil. And the people who celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk, same thing, and I wish they all lose their job. But again, this might actually be the most controversial video I ever done on this channel. So, but the next video is gonna be more positive, because on September 23rd, we are getting more news on the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Steel Ball Run anime. So, maybe a trailer? Who knows? So, if it's a trailer, then I'm totally doing a reaction. And if it's any other news, I'll still likely cover it. So, see you on September 23rd in a much more positive and optimistic and less controversial video. And talk to you then. Bye!